Buxton and Templeman on the front row, Jim Edwards Jr., the championship leader, with Rick Pearson alongside him on row 2, followed by Matt Jackson and Henry Taylor, David Gibson and Simon Clark, and then David Davies and Peter Sowerby completing the top 10 ahead of Stuart Clark and Jim Edwards Sr. And the lights go from red to green. A good start from Daniel Buxton. Jason Templeman going every inch of the way with him though. Then Jim Edwards Jr. and Rick Pearson squeezing in on that inside line for the first corner. Down to Clervaux. And it's the yellow car just ahead, but a big squeeze around the outside from Jim Edwards Jr. And the car spins in the back. Jason Templeman loses out. 3 into 1 won't go. And so has Jim Edwards Jr. Spins off on the inside of the track. We're riding with Stuart Clark. Was 11th on the grid. He's made up a bit of ground now. Onto the tail of number 14, Jan Prowse. And Jim Edwards Jr. rejoining at the very, very tail of the pack. Disaster for the championship leader. But at the head of the field. Oh, and at the head of the field, it's carnage too. Daniel Buxton T-boned there by the out-of-control David Gibson. And Rick Pearson, second place too, taken off, spins his wheels frantically, rejoins at the tail of the field. And he's still ahead of Jim Edwards Jr. But at the head of the field now, it's Matt Jackson from Simon Clark, Henry Taylor third, and David Davies going all the way with him in fourth place. Number 88, Henry Taylor from Battle in Sussex. 24, David Davies from Bridgend in Wales. Davies in the action door car, closing in again on the tail of the similar silver Clio ahead. Henry Taylor, Simon Clark in the Goodlift Motorsport car ahead of them in second place, and he's wheel to wheel across the start-finish line. Very, very tight line, out of the hairpin for Davies, but he keeps the momentum up. But it's going to have the inside line down into the corner at Clervaux for Henry Taylor. Davies is going to have to go all the way around the outside, and he does it! Whoa, what a piece of late braking into Clervaux. Can he hold on into Hawthorns now, through the little chicane? Almost full right lock, balancing the car on the power now, up the hill into the chicane. The old chicane here, originally put in when the start-finish line was where the cars are now, back in the circuit in the 1970s. But at the head of the field, it's still Matt Jackson holding off Simon Clark. This fantastic battle for third and fourth, though, and again going late on the brakes. Henry Taylor gets the advantage at Tower, but it's a double apex corner, and the apex on the second apex of the corner goes back to David Davies. Fantastic stuff. Now up to the Jim Clark S's, named after the late great Scottish Grand Prix driver who originally raced here in the 60s. And David Davies has the advantage now in that third place. Let's have another look at what happened though at Tower first time around. Late braking by David Gibson there, just loses it, punts the tail of Daniel Buxton, and Rick Pearson takes the 1-2 out. I suppose if that was billiards it would be a good score, but in Renault Clio racing, that is everybody down to the back of the pack. And that was the best possible news for Matt Jackson, still extending his advantage at the head of the field. And the battle for third place is still going on. David Davies smoking his tyres on the brakes on the run back out of Sunny now. Oh, and someone's going harvesting. Graham Oliver from Nottinghamshire, well, he's going to rejoin the track. And amazingly, after all these incidents, every one of the 24 Clios is still up and running. More tyre smoke for David Davies, and if he keeps... Oh, and more cars off! Jim Edwards Sr., Andy Thompson, the orange car is Simon Clark, Bob Smith there, and number 1, David Gibson, in the middle of all that as well in the red and white car. Well, what on earth happened there? 6 cars involved in that melee. Replaying it now, riding with Stuart Clark in 10th place. Thompson and Edwards ahead. Gibson goes through, storming through into 9th position. Now, watch the 2 cars. Oh, there they go. Formation spinning by Thompson and Edwards, and a neat move down the inside by Stuart Clark. Stuart Clark now up to 7th place, but ahead of him now it's a 3-car battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th places. David Davies, Henry Taylor, Jason Templeman in the 3 silver Renault Clios. Then the green car of Peter Sowerby, and following him through comes Stuart Clark in that 7th place ahead of Dave Gibson, Daniel Buxton and Jan Prowse, completing the top 10. And Buxton now really is on a fight back, looking down the inside of Jan Prowse. Eases his way down there into the complex, beautifully judged move, and a little wave in the rearview mirror because Jan Prowse knew that Buxton was storming up fast and gently left a bit of room. Across the line already for Matt Jackson and Simon Clark. Then come David Davies, Henry Taylor, Jason Templeman and the rest. And a battered and bruised selection of Renault Clios here with hardly a straight body panel on any of the cars, but still all 24 of the cars running. Brilliant racing and plenty of action for the fans at Croft. Through the chicane now, down onto the back straight. And already turning into Tower Bend, 75 miles an hour at the apex. The rear wheel waving in the air there for race leader. And Matt Jackson, 19-year-old man from Henley and Arden, driving the car prepared by former Ford Fiesta champion Colin Stancombe down at his workshops in Essex, and using every bit of the tarmac and a little bit more at the Jim Clark S's there. A very quick line through the S's, almost flat out in top gear. Now hard onto the brakes for the right-hander at Barcroft, then the double apex right-hander. 2 corners in one here, sunny in and now sunny out, and already building up speed up to the complex, back up over 100 miles an hour here in these Renault Clios. And a bit of dust flying in the background. There's plenty of drama still going on down in the pack, but Jackson keeping this absolutely smooth and consistent and extending his advantage at the head of the field. Oh, and there's the reason for the dust cloud. That is Simon Clark, was in second place. Spins out, leans on the tyre walls down at the complex, and he is going to rejoin down in 10th position. It's the order now, Matt Jackson, then the silver cars. David Davies in second place, Henry Taylor in third. Now Peter Sowerby's green car up into fourth place ahead of Jason Templeman. So another shuffle down the order as well, but Matt Jackson still holding on at the head of the field. It's Henley and Arden versus Bridgend versus Battle, with Peter Sowerby there in that fourth position now, closing in on the 2 silver cars, but the yellow car still with the advantage at the head of the field. And David Davies is going to have to watch, because going very, very quickly indeed there, Henry Taylor just starting to close back in again through Tower Corner up to the S's. This is where bravery matters, balancing the car on the power in top gear at well over 100 miles an hour. And using again all the tarmac, the concrete underneath. It used to be a World War II bomber base, this, and the concrete dispersals are still there underneath the track. And lifting a wheel there over the curbs at Barcroft, David Davies is responding to the pressure from behind, really piling it on now. David Davies, a real generation game battle this. David Davies, 38 years of age from Bridgend, being pursued by the young man from Sussex, just 20 years of age. But at the moment, it's the wily man from South Wales keeping the young charger from Sussex firmly in his place. Third place to be precise, because ahead of this duo it's still the 19-year-old from Henley and Arden, Matt Jackson, the former runner-up in the Honda 600cc single-seat racing championship from last year, moving on and up to these much more powerful Renault Clios, over 170 brake horsepower from these 2-litre engines. Really are touring car racers in miniature. And at the moment, Matt Jackson still heads David Davies, Henry Taylor in third, Peter Sowerby fourth, Jason Templeman completes the top 5 in the third of those silver cars. Templeman showing the scars of that nudge and spin at the very first corner of this race. A great fight back for him. But at the moment, David Davies is the man keeping the pressure on Matt Jackson. Jackson keeping it neat and tidy. Bodywork damage there too for Henry Taylor. As we ride into Tower Corner with Stuart Clark. Double apex right-hander run right out up to the curb. Now keep the throttle firmly on the floor, through the gears, up into top gear, and then balance the car all the way through the S's. Once, twice, clipping the curbs and down to Barcroft Corner. Hard onto the brakes for the right-hander. Not a moment's let up on this Croft circuit. One short straight where the drivers can get a chance to check the clocks. But for the man at the head of the field, this is going absolutely his way. Penultimate lap for Matt Jackson at the head of the field, into the complex, into the hairpin left for the final time. Out across the starting grid, the start-finish line, down to Clervaux, the final 2.1 miles. And less than 2 seconds behind his back bumper, he's still got a train of cars. He can't let up yet. And there's a huge fight back on at the tail of the field as well. A battle for 9th, 10th and 11th places. Simon Clark, Jim Edwards Jr. now on a real fight back. Finding a way past his father there, Jim Edwards Sr. Very tight line for number 5. Simon Clark doing his best to hold off. Jim Edwards Jr. though finds a quicker line. He's going to get the nose alongside across the line. He's going to have the advantage of the drag down to Clervaux Corner. But on the inside still, car number 5, Simon Clark's going to make it as difficult as possible. It's going to be the last of the late breakers. Oh, and up on the 2 wheels goes Simon Clark. Has to give best at that. And Jim Edwards Jr. goes up into that 9th place. But what a battle, what a piece of driving. Jim Edwards Sr. there just looking on in the background. But this man, Matt Jackson, has paced himself absolutely brilliantly, taking advantage when these 2 rivals were T-boned out from in front of him. But since then, he hasn't put a wheel wrong. He's probably got the only pristine Renault Clio left at Croft. And better still, it's the one that's out in front. Final time up to the complex. In through the left-handers. Now the right-hander takes him down to the hairpin for the final time. And it's going to be just under 3 seconds advantage for Matt Jackson from Henley and Arden at the head of the field as he takes the checkered flag. Matt Jackson wins at Croft, round 7 of the Elf Renault Sports Clio Cup. Behind him, across the line, David Davies holds off Henry Taylor. Peter Sowerby third, ahead of Jason Templeman, and Stuart Clark completing the top 6. Brilliant racing and confirmation then of that result, with Matt Jackson taking the victory by 2.7 seconds ahead of the Flying Welshman, David Davies.
I got quite a good start, but I got sandwiched in at the beginning. I didn't have anywhere to go, so I got a bit, and there was all cars spinning everywhere. I just sort of, and then David Davies just sort of hit me going into the hairpin and got past me. And I thought rather than fight him, I thought we'd sort of work together and try and catch Matt. And there wasn't a lot in it really. I think the beginning made the race really, the position. So
it was a pretty good start, and the trouble was at the front. And fortunately, at last, I avoided it, and the race went on. And there was a hard battle up there. Henry behind me pushed me hard. I couldn't close in a map, but just sit in tight. The car handled brilliant. And thanks to everything with my team, Action Doors, to sponsoring the car and having me there at the front,
Danny threw it off going into, I think Dave was down the inside and the car swapped ends. And unfortunately, Danny was on the receiving end of it. And I think Rick Pearson went off as well. And from the Exeter Tower then on, we just had the lead, and it was just keeping that gap, keeping a cushion there, and just easing it off at points, just rather than risking it, throwing it all away. And once we got the gap, it was just simply just stayed there, really.
Well, Jim Edwards Jr. survives with a 59-point margin at the head of the championship points, but that victory moves Matt Jackson up to 4th in the series as he celebrates success with the champagne at Croft.